Look at that. We are back. I know I say this all the time and it's a broken record, but where does the time go? We are back with another episode. It's like it keeps flying by. We're almost at June. We're approaching the end of May 2026. Where has the time gone? Like, wasn't it just New Year's?
Let's see. Next month, the end of second quarter.
Yes, halfway through the year already. We'll turn around. It'll be Thanksgiving and Christmas time again.
Yeah.
What is happening?
Oh, don't say that. The cold weather.
What is happening?
We haven't even hit the hot weather yet. And you're already talking.
I do like me a little summer. Yeah, no, I do like me a little summer. I don't mind the winter. My wife does not care for the cold at all. So we'll see. But it's
well, aren't most women just naturally cold anyway? They just live in a state of coldness and.
Yeah. So just as an example, as proof positive of that, just like last week, it was 82 degrees in the house, and she has a blanket on. I'm not making that up. That's true story. It's like, what are we doing? She goes, well, I just like to have the blanket. Like, you're sweating. Like, you're literally sweating. What are we doing?
Yeah, we had a movie night. It's the first of I hope many, because we had a really good time. But at our gym, the gym is a huge facility. It's enormous. It used to be an old central post office, like one of the distribution centers.
Oh yeah.
And they got these big giant walls. We hosted a movie night up there last night, and we had the big overhead doors open, and my wife's over there just wrapped up in a blanket. I'm like, are you kidding me? This is beautiful. But anyway, all right.
We are we're here for another episode. We're approaching 80, right? You said this is episode 78 of the Creative Real Estate Investing Mastery podcast.
Yep.
We are we're almost like triple digits. We'll be there for the end of the year, I imagine. Huh? So yeah, interesting.
Yep.
But what's on tap for today, Mr. Kaufman?
Well, this is going to be everybody's favorite topic today, because this is riveting information, just absolutely riveting. We're going to talk about insurance. We've talked about it before, and I kind of want to cover a lot of bases today. I want to not just talk about insuring, creative deals. We want to talk about, the proper types of insurance based upon, your disposition, the disposition of the property. So, if you're doing a flip, we have a different type of policy that probably would need to be included, or that would be reduce a lot of risk on your flip properties. We talk about, vacant properties, occupied properties, all that good stuff. And like I said, this is going to be riveting. You're just going to, I know everyone's looking forward to this one, but it is good information, because if you're not properly insured, and we've seen it time and time again, insurance companies, like all of them, are looking for really any way to not pay out. They're always looking for a way to do that. So let's just jump into it.
Can I just go back and say it's a very detail oriented, specific topic, but probably one where we get the most questions. There's these most questions, especially as it relates to a sub 2 deal, which we'll talk about. We actually have a specialized video on our YouTube channel about just that, insurance for sub 2 deals. But I think it'll draw a lot of interest, because it's one of the most frequently asked questions. So. And as you mentioned, we're kind of going to do a global look at it instead of just like a specific little piece. We'll just kind of try to hit all aspects of the deal. So yes. So where do you want to start? You want to start with sub 2 first?
Yeah, we can start there. But I do want to point out, just say this one thing it's a little bit negative. I'm feeling really good today. I don't feel like talking about negative stuff, but I will say, and I realize we're on these platforms, but after all of the subject to deals that we've done and all of the policies that we've had drawn up for our subject to deals, um, I would be very, very careful um, about listening to advice that you get out of Facebook groups. It's I see this run the gamut of, I mean, just completely. I've seen it run from fraudulent information to just flat out incorrect. And in both of those instances, you increase your risk factors by 1,000. I mean, it's so. I'm just trying to say, be very, very careful about who you listen to, um, and get some expert help on it. Even even your insurance provider can provide that, a really good, uh, solidly built policy. But there are specific things you're going to want to look for, particularly when it comes to subject to deals. So
Yeah, can I expand on that for more? I'll just flat out say too, I have seen advice from subject to creative gurus that have a lot of followers telling them to have two active insurance policies at the same time on the property.
fraudulent,
That
fraudulent.
that is actually considered fraud. You're
Yes,
correct. That
yeah,
that's
yeah,
actually not what to do at all.
not good
So
advice.
yeah, we say that, and we're not insurance experts, and there's lots of ways to structure an insurance policy and protect yourself, right? There's not one cookie cutter formula necessarily. Like there's not 10, but there's more than one way to structure things properly, and it depends on your insurance provider and how they might set things up. But we sure know what's friggin' wrong,
Yep, yep,
so
yep.
we can advise you on that. So that said, let's jump into the subject to deals,
Yeah,
right? And and in the insurance policy. And remember, we're high advocates of getting the property inside a trust. So then there's a way to structure the insurance policy with the trust. Maybe we could talk about that. And then of course, if you have it in your LLC, it'll look a little different.
yep,
But just, big advocates of the trust, just
yeah.
tossing that out.
The basic structure of the policy is going to remain the same. It's just who are we actually insuring, and who are the folks who need to be added to that policy, type of thing. So let's jump into subject to, and just start the whole thing off by with just this statement. When you buy a property, it does not matter how you buy it, what form of financing you have. If you take legal title to a property, you've got to have a brand new insurance policy. Period. There's no way around it. Um, that is primary risk factor number one, is not creating or having a brand new insurance policy built for your that properly insures you on a subject to deal. You have to get a new policy. And the big, you know, I guess the big argument that a lot of people have with that is they think that, if because that policy, that declarations page of that policy gets sent to the lender, and if you're not on that loan, if you've taken a subject to, taken a property subject to, if you're not on that loan, there is this big fear about due on sale, the due on sale clause being invoked.
Yes, the red flag, triggering the red flag.
The big red flag.
Yep. Yep.
Now, I have actually seen folks get letters, demand letters for payoff for the due on sale, for tripping the due on sale clause. And it's I won't say the majority of the time, but a good percentage of the time, it is because they do have an improperly structured insurance policy. And I'm not saying that it's. I'll just say that if it's structured properly, I have not personally ever experienced the due on sale clause being, or a demand letter being sent because of the insurance policy. I've
Right.
never seen it. I've never personally experienced it. But out there in Facebook land, just like what I just talked about, you will, on occasion, you will see someone who has um, uh, had the due on sale clause. They tripped the due on sale clause because of an improperly structured insurance policy, and it's just one more of those things. It's not necessary. You if you structure this thing right and you have the right names in place in that policy, um, the likelihood of a bank calling a note due is very, very low. It's extremely
It's
low.
it's not zero.
It's not zero. Correct.
Let's be honest, it's not zero. But what is the lender looking for? Let's go for like that. The lender wants to be the lost payee on the policy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So as long as that's in place, like as the first mortgagee, right? First lien position, they want to be the first lost payee. So you have to make sure that's in place. They also need, if it's a subject to deal, the original borrower's name that's on that loan has to be a named insured. Now, it doesn't have to be the primary insured name, but
Correct.
it can be an other insured, additional insured. They want to see the names of John and Mary Smith on the insurance policy somewhere. Again, it doesn't have to be the primary name, but it has to be there. And that's usually what's left off. They don't see the borrower's name on the insurance policy. So like, oh, well, you sold this.
Yeah.
Here's what's going on. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And as you stated earlier on in this podcast, the person that's on the loan does not have to be the primary insured. And as you stated, we use trusts in almost 100% of our subject to deals. And so in this case, the trust is going to be the primary insured. You're insuring the trust.
Yes. Yep.
And dude, I can get down a whole big rabbit hole, as you know, with this trust thing, because it's still great.
Yep.
But yeah, additionally insured, for sure, you must have the original borrower's name or names if it's a joint loan that both the or if you have more than one individual on the loan, those must be additionally insured. In addition to that, if you are the beneficiary of that trust, you are going to want your name, your whether that's you've taken it in a company name, your personal name, doesn't matter. You're going to want your name or your company's name as listed as additionally insured as well.
Yep.
It makes life way, way easier because, if you have a catastrophe and you just only have the trust as the primary insured, well, then you've got to run around, potentially expose your private agreement, your trust agreement, to the public, and also whenever you call up the insurance company, and I experienced this personally, when you call up the insurance company and they don't have your company listed as additionally insured, well, now you've got to provide evidence to them that you actually have authorization, to deal with that policy. So it can get pretty hairy pretty quick. So let's go back. I know this is kind of high level. Let's go back. We've got our policy. We have got our named insured, which is going to be the trust. It can be your LLC as well.
Can be, but that could trigger a question.
It could.
What's the LLC? Now, you could always respond and say, well, the owners of the LLC are these additional insureds that you see on here. And as long as the borrower's name is listed there, like, it's probably going to be okay. But lenders see trust stuff all the time for estate planning purposes. Mm-hmm. The likelihood of them questioning that is nearly, like, talk about almost zero. That definitely is almost zero.
Yeah. And if it's agreed. I mean, 100%, you should be using a trust anyway. It's just, for other reasons, it's so flexible. But if you do use your LLC and it's an investment property, or it's being turned into an investment property, Fannie actually has provisions for this, and they will allow you to transfer it to an LLC, and not necessarily, it's not necessarily going to trigger anything, but it's still, it's just a higher risk factor
Yeah.
by naming an LLC as the primary insured on that.
Yep.
So go ahead.
Again, like you said, though, just make sure the borrower's names of the sub two
Yep.
loan, just make sure the borrower's names are easy to see on the declaration page that's going to be sent to the lender. So,
yep, for sure. So to rehash, we've got our insurance policy. Our named insured is going to be our preferably a trust, but if you're using an LLC, it will be the LLC. That's the primary insured on that policy. The additionally insureds are going to be, if it's in a trust, well, the additionally insured is going to be whoever's name is on the loan. That has to be there. Then we have, if you're using a trust, we highly recommend adding your, however you have taken beneficial ownership of that trust, have that entity or your name listed there as well. The primary one, though, the big one, is the lost payee. The lost payee is going to be that lender that's in first position. And by the way, if like our deals, we like to get into deals with little or no money if possible. Sometimes we'll borrow that money and put a second lien on that property, where that lender will be in second lien position. That's going to be your secondary loss payee, your second loss payee. So if you guys have any questions about how this should be structured, if this is confusing, leave some comments for us. We'll be happy to go in and answer them for you. But that is a properly structured insurance policy on a subject to deal.
Yep. And can I just for a moment, some insurance companies, some insurance agents, well, and companies, I guess that's probably a fair statement, don't really like to deal with the whole trust thing. They like their insurance policies to be very, very specific. Here's the borrowers on the loan, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Property's titled under Mr. and Smith's name. Here's the loan and the loan number. It's the cookie cutter type of stuff. That's fine. Just find a different insurance company that will. I mean, we have plenty here in Missouri. One of the best. We're just going to plug them right here. Shelter Insurance, which is based here in Missouri. They also lend in different states: Ohio, Colorado, Indiana, some other states, depending on the particular agent, I think. But very, very trust friendly. Most of the agents, very, very trust friendly and understand how to structure it properly. So they are out there. They are out there in every state. They're out there.
Yeah, and I also want to talk about some of the other names that you might see, or other types of insured entities, or I don't know what I'm trying to say here. So when we're talking about, I'll just kind of lay it out. What we're talking about, additionally insured, that's going to be, that takes lower precedence over the primary insured. So you have the owner, or the borrower is additionally insured, but you might see things like I used to use an insurance company that they didn't use the term additionally insured. In fact, there's another term called ATIMA, ATIMA, as their interest may appear. You'll see that on some policies, and then also you just see flat out other insured, which is the case for this company that I was using. They didn't have additionally insured. They didn't have ATIMA. They just had other insured, and so it really doesn't matter. The point is, make sure your borrower's name is on that policy if you're taking a subject to deal.
Yep. Now let's shift into, you mentioned at the beginning, disposition strategies related to making sure the insurance policy is properly structured. So
Right.
let's just talk about the flip. So you acquire the property as a flip, and maybe it's a sub two deal, right? So we just talked about how to make sure that's in the trust or whatever. But for a flip purposes, right? So two things are going to happen for your flip. It's going to be vacant for a period of weeks to months, depending on the scope of the flip, right? And you're probably going to be staging. There's going to be all kinds of materials there. You might have construction people there leaving their tools and all that. So you want to make sure that your insurance policy covers those things: vacant property, and I guess I'll just say construction materials and equipment.
Yep. Otherwise known as a builder's risk policy. It's a very, very wise thing to do.
Yes.
Because I don't know about you. I've worked in some areas before that, you know, C and D areas that are that can be questionable, and crime happens. It
Yep.
just does. And I've always said nothing scares me more than a vacant property. I hate having a vacant property, and you know, especially if I'm going to be responsible. If I'm going to be responsible for the builder's equipment and all the materials that are inside that property, um, man, it can really hit you hard. So it's a builder's risk policy is it's not super expensive, but it's not cheap either. It's but it's a temporary policy. That's kind of what the give and take of that is. It's they're only going to insure this thing for this. You're only going to have the builder's risk there for 6 months or something like that. So it's not
Yeah.
like the insurance companies can they're not going to make their money on a long term policy here. So it is a little more expensive, but totally worth the money,
Yeah.
100%.
And so here's another little warning sign that I see all the time. You say, okay, well, you buy your property and you're going to flip it. Maybe you're going to do most of the work yourself. It's your equipment, it's your materials, or it's whatever. So just get a landlord policy. And most landlord policies have a period of time, especially after you acquire it, before they expect a tenant in there. So it's
Yeah.
usually 60, 90 days where you have a vacancy window of
Mhm.
coverage, but you do not have coverage for construction materials and things like that. It is not there. You
Yeah.
need to have that added as an endorsement, which I've seen before, or like you mentioned, an actual vacant policy designed for the fix and flips to build a risk.
Right. Yeah. I mean that's the key point is you purchase a policy for the situation for the so if you have a vacant property, get a vacant policy. If you have, I
Yep.
mean, just there's I've seen you talked about the 60 90 days. I've seen it as low as 30.
Yeah,
Where
it just depends, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
So and usually that's in the case of like if you had a property that maybe you rented out and you're doing a make ready, you're in a turnover, you're doing a make ready, they will usually they'll let that slide for 30 days, um, and well at least 30 days, and that will cover you, but it still does not cover any materials or anything that you have in there. So you're going to want to have a builder's risk, a rider on that policy. Um, I will tell you that I talked about this a long time ago, but I've had one major catastrophe, and this wasn't a subject to deal. This was a seller finance deal, but I did purchase that property in a trust, and so when I'm telling you this, how to when you have to structure that policy and what has to be present in that policy. My company was a beneficial owner of that trust, and it made for super easy, dealing with the insurance company because they knew, of course, like you said, you have to work with the right insurance companies to so that they because they understand this stuff.
Yep.
Um, One thing I will tell you, and this is going to be I think this is a gold nugget. It was for me when I found this out. When I had this major catastrophe, this was a four family that I owned, and we had one of the tenants threw a cigarette, which he wasn't supposed to be smoking in the unit anyway. So he was no longer a tenant, whether he wanted whether
Right.
it happened or not.
He's a squatter, right? Yeah.
But he threw a cigarette in a trash can and started a massive fire in this four family. And luckily, the city that unit was a total loss. Luckily, the city allowed us to keep the other three. It didn't actually pass through the other three. We had to go in and do some smoke remediation and things like that, which is very expensive. It's extremely expensive. But anyway, we got that done, so our other tenants weren't displaced. Um, they acted relatively quickly. The big issue is with a fire in particular is that people don't realize when you have a fire, they use water to put out fires, right? So almost immediately, when you expose all that wood and everything to the air, you have mold problems. So we got authorized to bring in a mold remediation company and empty that place out and put it under negative pressure, and the whole unit they put under negative pressure, and they were able to dry that place out. After this, of course, our adjuster shows up the following week. I don't know the days exactly, but he shows up and pretty normal stuff. Writes a bunch of stuff down. They come back about, I don't know, about a week later with an offer to settle with us. And this is where you got to be super, super careful. I'm not an insurance expert. I don't know what to look for. Half of the things they write in these policies, I don't understand. So, and there are three people in this situation that can represent you. That is you. First is you. Second is an attorney, and the third person that can legally represent you in this situation is what's called a public adjuster. And I will tell you, I hired that public adjuster. It was the best money that I ever spent on as it relates to insurance. A public adjuster's entire job is they're an accountability partner is what they are. They will go that you hand them your policy, and this policy was this thick. It was huge. Like it's more reading than I want to do. And they're an accountability partner, and they will go through that policy line by line by line. And what their job is to make sure that the insurance company sticks to and performs on their own policy. And so in this case, the damages, what the insurance company wanted to settle with us for $80,000, and I knew with the amount of damage that we had to this unit, there's no way $80,000 was going to cover this. I mean, we're talking structural. There was old plaster, like all of that old stuff. You can't find anyone who does plaster anymore. So this whole unit had to be completely renovated, gutted, the whole 9 yards. I knew $80,000 wouldn't cover it. So I spoke with, after speaking with the public adjuster, we kind of went back and forth a little bit. And by the way, when you hire the public adjuster, it's just like hiring an attorney. You are no longer speaking with the insurance company directly. The public adjuster is representing you, just like an attorney would. And this public adjuster negotiated, went back and forth, all by adhering to the policy that was, that we'd purchased and that the insurance company wrote, had all their hotshot attorneys write. And settlement, they wanted to give us $80,000. The public adjuster actually doubled that amount was able to get. He gave it. We ended up getting a check written to us for $160,000. And this particular public adjuster, his fee was 10% of that, so that's $16,000. And that sounds like a lot of money. I mean, I was like 16 grand for reading a policy. But once I saw everything that he did and everything that he was able to accomplish, and all the little things that he caught the insurance company not abiding by, yeah, we ended up with a check for $160,000, which was, we were able to make him, completely rehab that unit, and we were able to fix up some of the other stuff on the property. So I highly recommend using a public adjuster in cases where you've got a major you got a major catastrophe, a major event. Public adjusters are worth their weight in gold. They're awesome. You can find them anywhere. You can find them all over the United States. It's just not talked about that much. People don't. I
Yes.
and up until that point, yeah, up until that point, I'd never heard of a public adjuster. I didn't even know. I had no idea. So
Yes. And the insurance companies are hoping you never find out.
that's
Like,
right.
don't Google that, right? Don't Google it. So you can just Google public adjuster and find out what the deal is, or find one in your area
Yeah,
if you need help with something. Yeah.
totally, totally worth it, man. The best money I ever spent, honest to God. So, all right. So,
So one more thing, maybe before we wrap it up, too, can we talk about making sure? So we hit the big ones, the sub two deal. Obviously, we talked about making sure, like if you have a flip or a vacant policy, making sure you have the right clauses in there. But can we talk about making sure that you have appropriate levels of coverage
that's a good point.
on your insurance policy? Most real estate investors actually have policies that are underinsured.
Hmm.
They're not going to protect you. They might pay off the note that's on, that's on there, because the lender is going to make sure that the amount of the policy covers their loan, right? That's like rule one. It has to be there. But will it really protect you ultimately? In other words, is it replacement value? Like in a worst case scenario, the single family home gets hit by lightning, it burns down. There's tenants in there, right? So you probably have a landlord policy. So what happens now? So now you have displaced tenants. So now you have to figure out your clauses in the lease that say, okay, well, what happens now? The tenants have to go somewhere. Who's paying for that? Am I paying for that? Or is the insurance paying for that? Like, these are things that you have to make sure are covered from the beginning based on how you have your lease set up,
Yeah,
right?
that's a really
Uh,
good point.
in there. So just make sure you have appropriate levels, like lost rent, like for a landlord's policy. You have lost rent. You have probably replacement value coverage, not just to pay off the loan, but actual replacement coverage. It's going to cost you more on a premium,
Hmm.
but in a worst case scenario, you'll be glad that it's there.
Yeah,
So
I'll tell you what I do, and this is really, really dependent upon the property's location. Um, it's probably not a popular. It's not going to be a popular idea for a lot of people. But if I've got a property in kind of a lower, a lower end area, I will actually. I never underinsure, but what I'll do is I will buy a policy that will allow me to, at the very least, these are going to be, like I said, lower, kind of lower rated areas, not so popular areas. I'll buy a policy that will cover, that will, if I have, a loan on it or whatever it is, it'll cover the loan, and it will also cover the tear down and leveling of that lot. So it will pay me out. It'll pay off the loan. It'll, pay for the tear down. It'll pay for all the remediation, everything that has to happen on the lot, and which generally runs around 20,000 or something like
yeah,
that, depending
yeah,
on
I
the
was gonna say about another 25,000 or so. Make sure you have, yeah.
yeah. So and then I have a lot that I can sell.
Yep.
So
Free and clear. You
free.
now own the lot free and clear that you can just sell. Correct.
Right.
Or build on, or partner with a builder. And
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Absolutely. But otherwise, it's going to be like you said, replacement cost. Um, I don't think that should even be negotiable. Replacement costs. You're not saving that much money. You're really not. You might
it's not.
spend another, $300 or $400 a year on that policy for a replacement.
Yeah.
I don't know what they call that in a policy.
And if
Go ahead.
and if it's tenant occupied, or you're seller financing it, right? They're paying for it anyway.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, don't even worry about it. Make sure that stuff's covered. Make sure that your real estate empire is covered sufficiently. It's one of the most overlooked things, because every real estate investor, especially starting out, wants to save money. So, $300 on this policy and $300 on that policy, and 6, 8 policies in, that starts turning into real money. Well, you'll think twice about that as soon as there's a first issue. And
Yeah.
also, too, just from personal experience, make sure that you have vandalism coverage in your landlord policies.
Hmm. Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Vandalism coverage in your insurance policies. So what that means is when the disgruntled tenant who lets their dogs piss and shit in the house for years and years and destroys the floor, the subfloor, and the ceiling of the tuck under garage below, and all of that, and that all has to be remediated. Well, technically, that's vandalism if you don't have that in your policy. Like, just make sure that in a case like that, the tenants trash the place. Like, and different insurance company call it different things. They might say vandalism's an act where somebody comes onto the property, trespasses, and do that. And say, okay, well, what's the clause and what do you call when the tenants trash the place on the way out, and how am I covered? Like,
Yeah,
you just ask those questions.
for sure. The only other thing that I would add to that is there isn't a policy on earth that comes with, um, and I don't want to say flood insurance because it's a different type of flood insurance. I'll give you an example. Fact, just yesterday, a relative of mine called me in a panic because her sump pump quit working in the basement,
Yep.
and her basement flooded. I mean, it's total destruction. It's clean water, so she's lucky there. But so there are certain instances something like that's going to be covered. Something that
Water backup.
the sump pump would be covered, and these are the little nuances that you need to ask questions about from the agent or the company that you're buying your policy from. Something like that would be covered. It's a pipe in the house burst, and it's not an act of God. It's just it could be poor workmanship. However, in an act of God situation, and especially if you have a basement, I would highly, highly recommend getting a flood insurance policy. It's not like you can be in a zone X FEMA zone, and absolutely no way. You're talking about a 50,000, or is it 50,000 or 5,000 year flood or something like
5,000, yeah, which happens every 5 years, right?
that. But that would be zone X. So that's what they're telling you is with that FEMA zone is that it's highly, highly unlikely you're going to get a flood. But water tables don't care about FEMA zones. And if you have a flood, especially if you've got a basement or a sewers run underneath
Yeah.
homes. You drain straight out into a sanitary sewer. That stuff backs up, and that's the type of stuff that they do not cover.
Yep.
And I'm telling you, this happened in my house. This happened in the house that I'm sitting in right now. And most, most water treatment or sewer companies, they are quasi government agencies, and they have something called sovereign immunity, and they will claim it, and they did, because this happened to me twice. They claimed sovereign immunity, and the first time it happened, we had a $40,000 loss. That was the estimated loss because we have a finished basement, and they gifted us a $4,000 check to help the sanitary district here. They gifted us a $4,000 check. The rest of it was on us. So we called up our insurance company and we said, "Is there anything we can do?" I mean, because we weren't insured for that at the time. That had to come out of pocket. I said, "Is there anything we can do?" And they said, "Yes, there's this special flood rider that handles acts of God." And I am not kidding you. Having that flood rider on there was to the tune of like $30 extra per year.
Yeah.
That could have saved
Typically
us.
not very much. Yeah,
It's
typically
dirt cheap.
because it's not going to happen very often. So
Yeah.
that's what the insurance company is it's just actuarial tables, right?
Yep. And that was 15 years ago, maybe even longer than that. But what a huge lesson to learn, So, and especially if you're in like a zone X, a FEMA zone, this flood rider is dirt cheap. And like I said, if you have a basement, especially, basements are annoying. I just, I know we're here in the Midwest and everything, and we have tornadoes and all this, but I will never have another basement for as long as I live. It's constantly on my mind. We turn
gun shy
all of our
are we?
water off. We turn our hot heater, the feed to our hot water heater. We turn it all off when we leave because it's always on my mind. It's like one of those little nagging things that I just can't. Maybe I'm just being a little a little particular, but yeah, that's peace of mind for something so cheap, so cheap. We could have avoided all of that. It still would have been a hassle, of course, but um, yeah, all of that money we lost just over $30 for the year. It's crazy.
Yep.
But so
So, so now that we've given you a little horror story here too, we hope you understand the importance of insurance. Even though insurance, if I'm being honest, really pisses me off. I mean, they really piss me off a lot of times with the outrageous annual premium increases and all of that. And they go out of their way, as you mentioned, not to pay. But if you have the right policy structured in the right way, as we've talked about here today, they will have an obligation to make you to pay out on there and make you whole, or at least to the policy limits. So
absolutely, and
you know,
I'm going to reiterate: use the services of a public adjuster if you have any questions. If you think for any reason that the figure that they gave you to settle with is just way too low, hire a public adjuster. It will be worth your time in
yep,
almost every case. So
yep. And if you have questions, especially again, one of our most frequent questions is insurance, especially for sub two deals. We covered that at the beginning. Partner with us. That's why we're here. We'll take you. Like I mentioned, there is a maybe we'll make a post about this, but there is a YouTube video specifically about sub two insurance policies. Kind of a nuts and bolts there diagram with actual policy and where all the names go in the policies, as we talked about. So maybe we'll get that posted out for you. And just like I said, let us know if you have any questions, and by all means, come and partner with us. Like, that's what we do. So
absolutely. All right, guys. Got anything? Any parting words?
nope, just have a great week. And this cat will be in Alaska, so we'll probably be maybe taping a couple more podcast episodes to go up there in there, and then we'll see how the Alaska adventure goes.
Yep. All right, man. Have fun. Have fun in Alaska, and we'll see you when you get back. And yeah, we'll continue to rock and roll here.